सकलत्राय ते नमः। अवतीर्णो स कारुण्यो परिच्छिन्नो सदीश्वरो श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानन्दो दो भारतरो भजे। स जयति विशुद्ध विक्रम कनकावकमलायताक्षण वरजानुविलम्बि षड्भुजो बहुधा भक्तिरसाभिनर्तकः। जयति जयति देव कृष्ण चैतन्य चन्द्रो जयति जयति कीर्तिस्तस्य नित्य पवित्रा। जयति जयति भारतस्तस्य विश्वेरमूर्ति जयति जयति नृत्यं तस्य सर्वप्रियाणाम्। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपाद की जय हो। चैतन्य भागवतम की जय हो। थैंक यू माता जी। हरे कृष्ण। धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So all glories to Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra. Dandot pranam to all devotees. Prayers to Lord Narasimha for speedy recovery of Narayani Mataji. So the seva today is to talk about Gundecha Marjana. So I will try to just repeat what are there in the scriptures in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Gundecha Marjana. Hare Krishna. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has described Gundecha Marjana, this particular Leela, the particular festival in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Leela, in Madhya Kand. So we will go through that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while he was in Jagannath Puri and just before the Rath Yatra, he approaches along with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and he requests to the temple authorities for the cleaning of the temple, Gundecha temple. Now we will just see what is Gundecha temple. So Gundecha temple, if many of you have been to Jagannath Puri, is about 2 miles northeast of Jagannath temple. And at the time of the Rath Yatra festival, Lord Jagannatha goes to the Gundecha temple from his original temple from Nilachala and stays there for 1 week or almost it's about 7 days to 8 days. After 1 week, he returns to his original temple. It is said that the wife of Indradumna Maharaj, who was the Maharaj of Puri Kshetra, the king who established the Jagannath temple, his wife's name was known as Gundicha. And in her name, this temple was built. This is also mention of the name of Gundicha temple in these authoritative scriptures. And this temple, Gundicha temple, is estimated to be around 288 cubits by 215 cubits. The main temple inside is about 336 cubits by 30 cubits. And the Kirtana hall is also about 32 by 30. The Lord requested for the permission to wash the temple of Gundicha. And so the temple authorities, the temple superintendent asked, "Where are your servants? Whatever you desire is our duty to perform." So the temple president, the temple authorities say that the king has given us a special order and to do whatever you say. So the king, Pratap Rudra at that time was very, very great devotee of the Lord. He personally wanted to meet the Lord, but the Lord, for what the world might say, he didn't meet the king, but he met his son and he delivered his son. The king was, being a very great devotee of the Lord, was very pleased that the Lord met his son and has blessed his son very nicely. Now, further we see that, my dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. So the authorities say that to wash the temple, you may need lot of water pots, brooms. So he's saying, please order that to me and I can immediately bring all those things, whatever you need for washing the temple. So the temple authorities understood that the desire of the Lord is to clean the temple, and they immediately brought hundreds and hundreds of water pots and hundreds of brooms for sweeping the temple. Next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him, and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. So whoever came along with Lord applied chandan on them. To each devotee, Lord gave one broom and with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with them, the Lord enters. Lord means here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered Gundicha temple. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates went to clean the Gundicha temple. At first, they cleaned the temple with the broom. So, initially, when you have to clean the temple, you have to first broom the floor of the temple in all places so that the dust accumulated has been cleansed. Later on, only you will use water. So, the Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, the Simhasana, cleansed it nicely, and again put it in its original place. The Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple buildings, big and small, finally cleansed the area between temple and the Kirtana hall. Hundreds of devotees were engaged in the cleaning process all over the temple, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operations just to instruct them. So, how were they cleaning? So, we will see a couple of verses also. प्रेमो उल्लासे शोधने लाए ना कृष्ण नाम भक्त गणा कृष्ण काहे करे निज काम. When they were cleaning the temple, they were so happy, jubilant, and full of ecstasy. Personally, the Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Supreme Lord Krishna in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was with them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation. And how they cleansed it? By chanting the holy name of the Lord Krishna all the time. They were always saying Krishna's name. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting at the same time, performing their duties. So it is said that even in our day to day life, when we are doing certain things in the kitchen, we are said that we should be continuously remembering the Lord's name or chanting the holy name and do our chores in the kitchen also. Similarly, even for cleaning the temple or the premises of the temple, or you're putting rangoli in front of the temple, one should always chant the names of the Lord. धूली दूसरा तानु देखी ते शोभान कहाँ कहाँ अश्रु जले करे समर्जन. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and some places he even cleansed with those tears. So the Lord was so ecstatic that he started shedding tears, and that those with those tears he was cleansing the temple. Bhoga mandira shodhana kari shodila prangana sakalang avasakrame karila shodhana. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, the Bhoga Mandira was cleansed, and then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters one after the other. त्राणाधुली जिंकुरा शब एकत्र करिया बाहिर बासे लाना फैलाया बाहिरा करिया. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place. He gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. Ei mata bhakta gana kari nijavase tranadhuli bahire felaya pramara harishe. Following the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather the straw, dust in their own cloths and threw them outside the temple. Prabhu kahe ki kata kari acha samarjana trana dhuli dekhi le jani ba parishrama. Lord then told the devotees, I can tell how much you have labored, how well you have cleansed the temple, simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside. So by seeing the heaps of straw and dust collected outside the temple, Lord is appreciating the devotees that you have labored so well. शाबा जायंताना भोजा एकत्र करीला शाबा हायते prabhura bhoja adika haila. Even though all the devotees collected the dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much, much greater than that. E mata abhyantara karila marjana puna shaba kare dila kariyavantana. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. Sukshma dhuli trina kankara sabakara dhura bhala mate shodana karaha prabhura antapura. Then the Lord ordered everyone to clean the antapurani inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straw, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. Shaba Vaishnavalana Yabe Dui Barasodila Dekhi Ma Prabhu Ramane Santosha Haila. After seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work going on. Arasata Janasata Gate Jala Bhari Pratamelana Ache Kala Apeksha Kari. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready filled with water pots, and they simply awaited the Lord's order to throw the water from them. Jala ana bali yabe Mahaprabhu kahila tabe satagata ani Prabhu age dila. Jala ana, he's saying, bring the water now. And all the men immediately brought the hundreds of water pots which were filled completely with water and delivered them before the Lord. Prathame karila prabhura mandira prakshalana urdhva adho biti griha madhya simhasanam. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple and then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, sitting place simhasana, everything else within the room. Kapara bhariya jala urdhve chalaila sejale urdhva shodhi biti prakashila. Prakshalila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling, and when this water fell, it washed the walls and the floor. Shri Haste Karena Simhasanera Marjana Prabhu Age Jalani Deyak Bhakta Gana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then washed the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own hands, and all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. भक्तगण करे गृह मध्य प्रक्षालना निज निज हस्त करे मंदिर marjana. Devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. Keha jala ani deya Mahaprabhura kare keha jala deya tanra charana upare. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. Keha luka na kare sei jala pana keha magi laya keha anye karadana. The water that fell from the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. So, what secretly, hidingly they were doing? Devotees sometimes gave water in the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and sometimes some people poured the water on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet and secretly collecting that water and drinking that water as Charanamrit, and also secretly distributing that water in charity. Ghara dui pranki prana likhaya jala chadi dila sejale prangana shaba bhariya rahila. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and it then flowed and filled the yard outside. Nija vasre kaila prabhu griha samarjana Mahaprabhu nija vasre majila simhasana. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes and he polished the throne with them also. So the vastra means the vastra which Prabhujis wear as the Anga vastra. With that vastra, he was mopping the floors of the temple room and he also polished the throne, the Simhasana of where Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra will occupy after the Rath Yatra. Shatagata jale haila mandira marjana, mandira shodhiya kaila yena nija mana. In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clean as the room. So this is the most important thing when we cleanse the mandira marjanam. So I think in Samsara Dava also this word, this paragraph, the fifth paragraph, this fourth or fifth paragraph, this comes, where we have to cleanse. When we cleanse the temple of the Lord, keep our altar clean, and we cleanse it every day or whenever we have a scheduled time for cleaning it, what we are doing is we are also simultaneously cleaning our hearts. We are cleaning our minds. So Cheto Darpana Marjanam is happening when we cleanse the temple of the Lord. Nirmala Sitala Snigdha Karila Mandire Apana Hridayayena Dharila Bahire. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. Sata Sata Jana Jala Bhare Sarovare Ghate Sthana Nahi Keha Kope Jala Bhare. Hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, and there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. So, in Gundecha Mandir in Jagannath Puri, few meters away, there is this huge, I think it's called the Intradumni Sarovar. So, the people, devotees, were filled up line in standing in a line up to the ghat of the lake and transferring the water from the lake to the temple. पूर्ण कुंभ लाना ऐसे साता भक्त गाना शून्य घाता लाना या आरा साता जाना. Hundreds of devotees brought water in the pots and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill the pubbing. So it was a chain. They were doing like a chain, in a chain action. People were sending the filled water pots inside the temple and the empty pots was being transferred back towards the lake. नित्यानंद अद्वैत स्वरूप भारती पूरी इन्हा भीनु आरा सभा आने जला भरी. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharati and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. घाटे घाटे ते की काटा घाटा भांगी गेला साता साता घाटा लोका tahan lana aila. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Jhala bhare ghara dhoya करे हरि ध्वनि कृष्ण हरि ध्वनि vina ara nahi suni. So nothing was heard except the name of Krishna and Hari. While the water pots were being filled and being passed and the rooms were being cleansed of the temple, all that was being heard, the dhvani was Krishna Krishna and Hari Hari. Krishna Krishna kahi kare ghate ra prarthana Krishna Krishna kahi kare ghata samarpana. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the names, holy names, Krishna Krishna, and another person delivered a water pot to him chanting Krishna Krishna. So they were not saying, "Arey, mujhe pani de do, mujhe matka le lo." No, they were saying Krishna Krishna, and the person was giving water pot to the another person, and the empty pot was also being given back by saying Krishna Krishna. ए कहे से कहे कृष्ण नामे कृष्ण नामा haila sanketa sabakame. So the Krishna Nam was an indicator for all the work they were doing. So the holy name became an indication for everyone who wanted to do something. प्रेमावेशे प्रभु कहे कृष्ण कृष्ण नाम एकाले प्रेमावशे करे सता जने काम. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, and he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. Sata haste karena yena Shala marjana pratijana pasaya karana sikshana. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with hundreds of hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal seva here was like he could do the work of hundreds of men, and as if it seemed as if he had hundreds of hands and he was approaching every devotee, and in the simultaneously he was teaching how to do the seva. Bhala karma dekhi tare kare prasamshana mane nami nile kare pavitra vatsana. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw them that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately even chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. Tumi bhala kariya cha shikaha anyare, ei mata bhala karma se hoye na kare. He was saying, you are doing a nice work. Please teach others to act in the same way. Ei khata suniya sabe sankuchita haya, bhala mate karma kare sabe mana diya. So people got ashamed when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this to them, and thus devotees became more alert and began to do their work with great attention. Tabe prakshalana kaila Shri Jaga Mohana Boga Mandira Agi. Tabe kaila prakshalana. They washed the Jagamohana area and then the place where the food was kept. All other places were also washed. Natashala Dhuli Dhulya Dhul Dhuila Chatvara Prangana Pakashala Adi Karila Prakshalana. In this way, the meeting place was cleansed, the entire yard and the raised sitting places, the kitchen and every other room was, Pakashala is kitchen, and every other room was cleansed. Mandirera Chaturdika Prakshalana Kaila Shabanta Pura Bhala Mate Dhoyalam. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed within and without. Hena kale gaudiya eka subudhi sarala prabhu racharana yuge dila ghata jala. After everything was thoroughly washed, a Vaishnava from Bengal, who was very intelligent and simple, came and poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord. Sei jala lana apane pana kaila taha dekhi prabhura mane dukha rosa hoila. When he drank the water from the lotus feet of, after washing the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt very unhappy and was also very outwardly angry at that person. Yadyapi goshani tare hana che santosha dharma samsthapana lagi bahire maharosha. After the Lord was certainly satisfied Although the Lord was certainly satisfied with him, he became externally angry in order to establish the etiquette of religious principle. Siksha lagi swarupe dekhi kahila tanhare ei dekha tomara gaudyara vyavahara. He's saying, is this the behavior of your Gaudiya style? And he calls for Swarup Damadra and tells him about the behavior of this Bengali Vaishnava. Ishvara mandire mora pada dhoya ila sei jala apani lana pana kaila. So the Lord is saying, in the mandir of the Lord, in the temple of the Lord, this person is coming and washing my feet and drinking the water himself. And Lord is saying, this is not correct. Because the Supreme Lord Jagannath is here and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the bhav of a mood of a devotee. He is come in the mood of a devotee, in the mood of Radharani to search and be in the mood of separation from Krishna. So Krishna himself comes in the mood of Radharani to search for Krishna. Ei aparade mora kaha habe gati tomara gaudiya kare eteka Paijati. I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me. So, this is the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. तबे स्वरूप गोशानी तारा गादे हाथा दिया देखा मारी पूरीरा bahira rakhilena lana. At this point, Sarup Damodar Goswami caught the Gaudiya Vaishnava by neck and giving him a little push, ejected him from the Gundicha Puri temple and made him stay outside. Punasi Prabhu Paya Karila Vinaya Agya Aparaga Shama Karite Yuyaya. Sarup Damodar Goswami returned within the temple and he requested Mahaprabhu to excuse the innocent person. तबे महाप्रभु रामाने संतोष हाइला सारी करी दुही पासे शाबारा वसाइला. After this incident, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all devotees to sit down in two lines on both sides. Apane basiya majhe apanara hate trina kankara kuta lagila kudaite. He sat down in the middle and picked up all the kinds of straws and grains of sand and dirty things. He sat down in the middle. He Keikata Kudaya Saba Ekatra Kariba Yara Alpa Taratani Pita Pana Laiba. While Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, I shall gather everyone's collection and I shall ask whoever has collected less than all others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice. So, जिसने भी कम collect किया straws and grains of sand, he has to pay a fine of what? Some sweet cake and sweet rice. एई माता सबा पूरी करीला शोधना सीताला निर्मला kaila yena nijamana. In this way, all the quarters of the Gundicha temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All the quarters became cool and spotless, like once cleansed and pacified mind. प्राणालिखा चाडी यादी पानी वाहाइला नूतन नादीयेन samudre milila. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it appeared as if new rivers were forming and rushing out to meet the waters of the ocean. So much water was used that it appeared as if rivers were flowing out of the temple and heading towards the ocean. ए माता पूरा द्वारे आगे पथा या था सकल शोधिला ताहा केवर्णी बे कथा. Outside the gate of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Nirsimha Mandira Bitara Bahira Sodila Snaneka Vishrama Kari Nritya Arambila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the Nrsimha temple inside and outside. Finally, he rested a few minutes and then he began dancing. Chari dikhe bhakta gana karena kirtana madhye nritya karena prabhu mata simha sama. All the devotees around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started singing and chanting and dancing, and Lord appeared like a maddened lion and he danced in the middle of that circle. Sveda Kampa Vaishvanya Sadru Pula Kahunkara Nija Anga Dui Age Chale Ashtrudara. While Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing, he was showing the Ashtasattvic Vikara. Those were like perspiration, trembling, fading, tears flowing from his eyes, jubilation and roaring. Indeed, the tears from his eyes washed his body and those before him. Chari dikhe bhakta anga kaila prakshalana sarvanera meghayena kare varishana. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the bodies of all the devotees with the tears from his eyes. So fortunate were the devotees that Lord himself was washing their bodies with his own tears. The tears poured like rains in the month of Shravana. Maha Ucha Sankirtane Akasha Bharila Prabhura Udhanda Nritye Bhumi Kampa Haila. The Sankirtana was so loud that the whole sky was filled up, and the Nritya, the dance, was also so Udhanda, Jumping, they were doing dance by jumping up and down, that the bhumi, the earth started to, as if it felt as if the earth was shaking. Swarupera ucha gana prabhu re sadha bhaya anande uddanda nritya kare gaura raya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always liked the loud chanting of Swarup Damodara. Therefore, when Swarup Damodara sang, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped in jubilation. ए माता कत क्षण नृत्य ये करिया विश्राम करीला प्रभु samaya bhujiya. Thus the Lord chanted and danced for some time, and finally, understanding the circumstances, he stopped. Acharya Goshanira Putra Shri Gopala Nama Nritya Karite Tare Agya Dila Gauradhama. Then the Mahaprabhu ordered Sri Gopala, son of Advaita Acharya, to dance. While dancing, Advaita Acharya's son Gopala fell to the ground unconscious. And when Gopala fainted, Advaita Acharya hastily took him upon his lap. Seeing that he was not breathing, he became very agitated. Advaita Acharya became very agitated and in anxiety. Nirsimha mantra padi mare jala chanti hunkarera shabde brahmanda yayapati. Advaita Acharya then began to chant the holy name of Lord Narsimha and sprinkle water. The roaring of the chant was so great that it seemed to shake the entire universe. When the boy did not regain consciousness after some time, Advaita Acharya and other big devotees began to cry. That time Mahaprabhu placed his hand on the chest of Gopala and said loudly, Gopala, stand up. And Gopala heard the voice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he immediately came to his senses. All the devotees began to dance in great happiness and chanting the holy name of Hari. This incident has been described in detail by Vrindavan Das Thakura in. Therefore, I have described, that's why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing this in brief. After taking rest, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and devotees departed to take their baths in the lake. So we saw how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the Gundecha temple before the Rath Yatra took place, and he took his bath at Indradumya lake and partook prasadam in the garden nearby. After that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the temple of Gundecha, as we saw through the verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we also saw how a Gaudiya Vaishnava washed the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and drank the water, which although from inside Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was happy, but by externally he was showing his anger towards him. So the purport of this is that we are cleansing the temple. We also cleanse our hearts by this way and inviting Jagannath to our hearts. And Gundicha temple is akin to Vrindavan, and Jagannath Puri, or the main Nilachal temple, is akin to the Dwarka Dham. And Lord Jagannath, we are all remembering these pastimes, and on the day of Rath Yatra, devotees are praying to Jagannath and pulling the Ratha, and whoever pulls the Ratha of Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, it is said that it is so auspicious that he gets away from the cycle of birth and death, and he pulls the Ratha to Gundecha temple, and Gundecha temple is the Vrindavana. So like Moramanna Vrindavana, you make your mana as Vrindavan and you pull Lord into, cleanse your mind, cleanse your heart, and pull the invite Lord into your heart. So that is one of the purport of this Jagannath Rath Yatra. So devotees pull with great ecstasy Jagannath from Dwarka Dham to Vrindavan Dham. And this Leela in Jagannath Puri is about separation, in Vipralamba Bhav. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself comes in a mood of separation, in the mood of Radharani. So here Radharani is represented by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Jagannath is Krishna, and he is coming to Vrindavan to meet Radharani. So we all invite Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, into our hearts, so that Lord is seated in our heart. And before inviting the Lord, we cleanse our minds and heart nicely by chanting the holy name, and physically also doing Gundecha Marjan in whichever area we live. Please associate in that area to cleanse the temple of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we'll end the class here. Any comments or questions, please?
Mataji, Hare Krishna. Please announce 18th Sunday, 9 a.m. Mira Road Temple. They have to assemble for Gundecha Marjana.
Yes. Yes,
Mataji. Please announce, Mataji. Yeah.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, Sunday is a very important day. Please attend ISKCON Mira Road Temple. His Grace Gaurang Prabhu is giving the morning class on Gundecha Marjana. He is a very exalted Vaishnava. So please listen the katha from him and then do the service personally, whatever service Mataji has already announced. So the cleansing of the roads where Lord is going to personally walk on his Ratha. So that is very auspicious and very purifying as well. So that one's heart and mind is cleansed. So in the last few classes we've been discussing that we have to keep our mind also purified, heart also purified. So please join the Rath Yatra. So if people are away from Thane, can join their respective congregation nearby. But people who are in Thane, Kalyan nearby, please join ISKCON Mira Road Temple for Gundecha Marjan at 9 a.m. on Sunday, 18th of June. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for wonderful class. Jai Jagannath, Jai Baldeva, Jai Subhadra.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhya. Hare Krishna.
Close the class. Yeah, thank you all. Jai Jagannath, Jai Gundecha.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.